Hey guys, welcome to Yak in the Stacks. This is our podcast where we yak in the stacks, sometimes out of the stacks. Today we're kind of in the stacks. We are back at the library and we're very excited. And today we wanted to kind of address the elephant in the room that we haven't really talked about yet throughout this whole podcast, which is the coronavirus.
Yes. Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun.
Yes, the coronavirus. And what you've been doing during this time, like what month are we at now? Like we've almost been through almost a year of this.
And if just a few more months, it'll be a year.
Yeah, and so like I was curious as to like what. Also, I'm Catherine, by the way. But like I didn't even introduce myself. My name's Catherine. I work on level 4 at the main library. Natasha, tell us who you are.
Okay, I'm Natasha. I also work at level 4 as well as level 3 at the main library.
Right, but I was curious about what people have been doing during this time, like during the pandemic, to like stay sane. Because mostly I just need ideas.
We all need a little bit of that.
Yeah, I just need to know. I want ideas. So I want to know, Hayden, what have you been doing? What is like the biggest thing you think that like you found yourself doing during the pandemic?
I find myself turning to music a lot if we're talking about like how to get through the pandemic, like what to focus on to help you with the day-to-day things that are strange due to it. I find myself focusing on music, and my music taste has also gotten very strange. Like I'm finding music that I think is kind of out there and kind of different, and I think it feels fitting right now because everything feels so weird that maybe this song about the movie Jaws sang in a very upbeat tone fits in with the fact that nothing makes sense right now.
That makes sense. Nothing makes sense right now, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, but yeah.
Might as well. Yeah. I've been really into this one band, and their whole thing, their claim to fame is that they did these series of concept albums about Mega Man characters. The band is called the Protomen. The first album is called the Protomen, and a lot of their subsequent albums are, whatever. And like I've always liked that first album, but I never really knew what it was about. Like I listened to it when I was a kid, and I didn't really know what it was about. But I've got really back into it, and like all the like story concept albums that come after it, and I'm like, for like a concept album about Mega Man, this is really, really good.
That's such a funny thing. Like, just it seems like something that would like be kind of hard to do. But I don't know. Like Mega Man, tell me about Mega Man. I feel like I'm lame because I don't know who that is.
To be fair, I don't know much about Mega Man either outside of the context of this album. He's like a video game character / anime character / just pop culture character, kind of in the same way like Sonic is like as much a cartoon character as he is a video game character or whatever. And he's like a little robot human boy that like fights evil, and he's blue and he's like
I think I know who he is now. Yeah, I think I recognize that. That makes more sense. As soon as you were like he's like a cartoon and video game character, I think I know.
Yeah, he wears like a helmet. Like he wears like a helmet that's kind of shaped like an M. I never was super into like Mega Man as a kid. Like I never played any like Mega Man games or anything like that. So all that I know about it is what I've learned from this album that like goes through the story of like Mega Man or whatever in this really like interesting way. And I'm like, you know what? They like really got me like emotionally invested in Mega Man through this like rock like concept album. So yeah, I can relate that to that.
I love that album. And I love the Megas also. Similar concept about Mega Man. I think they're the ones that took Mega Man songs, and did they make originals or did they take Mega Man songs and put lyrics to them? I don't remember which they did.
Are you talking about the Protomen or
the Megas? Because I remember them, and I remember some by the Protomen. I know these things because when I was a teenager, there's this online anime-based radio station that I'm gonna just give a tiny little shout out in case any of our listeners want to listen to them also. They're called 91.8 The Fan, and they're not on the air, they're just online, but they used to play the Protomen and the Megas, and I would be like, I don't know what this is about, but I like it.
That's so cool.
I never listened to the Megas, but I know the Protomen, all their songs are original songs.
That's so cool.
I think they use like, you know, riffs and stuff from like Mega Man music, but like the songs and the stories are like original with like those characters and concepts. So it's really cool. I really like concept albums. Just to kind of like keep talking about music for a little while longer. I've always really liked them. It's really fun, like telling a story and just like an album or something like that. I've always just really been into it. So.
Like sitting down and listening to a whole album, like start to finish, and you just like lay there and like listen to the whole thing.
Yeah,
that's cool.
I feel like in terms of relating to the pandemic, music can be a form of escapism, and I see a lot of people through this pandemic turning to escapism in order to kind of deal with what's happening on the outside. You know, we'll read long books, we'll get into these stories, and that's kind of part of what music is doing, is telling a story, whether it's a silly story or an emotional story. It's kind of an escape from what we're dealing with. I am an escapism person through and through. That's my coping mechanism of choice. When I'm forced to face pandemics and scary things, I'm immediately like, how can I get really into a series right now to escape reality?
Yeah, just give me a few minutes where I don't have to think about, like, you know, whatever. Like I'll rewatch X-Files.
Oh my gosh, I already have. It's been great.
I've been wanting to, and
that's
kind of how I've been coping, I guess. Is I've been engaging with a lot more media, reading all those books that I sat down and like sat on my shelf and said like, oh, I'll read that eventually, or like shows that I've just been like, oh, I'll watch that eventually. Well, now I have a lot of time to be at home and find things to do, because it's not like I can go out and do the things I normally would do that would take up the time that I could be spending watching that cool show everyone tells me about, or reading that great book everyone tells me about, you know, so.
Oh yeah, I definitely have been doing the same thing. I've been watching so much TV, it's ridiculous.
Catching up on the media backlog.
Yes, and like looking for like watching series that like I normally wouldn't, and being like really like surprised. But mostly like I'm really bad about rewatching things. Like I have series and shows that like I just absolutely love, and I rewatch them. And I'm the same way with books. Like I reread the same books so much because I just like, I don't know, like I just like it, you know?
It feels like when you have a piece of media you really like, because I have a few things like that they just, it feels like, as geeky as it sounds, it feels like coming home almost when you come and you get to like watch it, and like you don't really have to think about it because you know it or like it so well. But like, you know, one movie I have that's kind of like that is it's Pacific Rim. Came out a few years ago.
That's funny.
2016, I think. I don't know. It came out a few years ago, and I really liked that movie. I think it's one of like Guillermo del Toro's best, like most underrated, like best works. Just because it's so like good. I could just go on forever about like why I think this big like cheesy kaiju movie is like at peak cinema. But like I watched that like twice in the past, like, you know, over the course of quarantine, because it's just like I can just turn it on and like it makes me happy, and I just like I don't have to think about anything else. I can just like watch this big giant robot punch this big giant fish monster, and it's like great. Like,
take that, fish monster.
Yeah, take that.
Yeah, I've definitely like rewatched Twin Peaks, which like my husband and I do at least once a year anyway, but we've rewatched it probably like twice, and then like maybe some scattering of a couple episodes here and there, because it's exactly the same thing. It's like a comfort, like you just put it on in the background, and the aesthetic just like puts you at ease. And I guess like one of the books that I've reread that I'm like kind of in the middle of rereading right now is really different than like my normal reading, like that I would normally just pick up and read. It's Where the Heart Is by Billy Letts is like just a comforting book. Like I don't know what it is about that story. It's about that lady who has a baby in the Walmart. That doesn't even ruin the story. Like that's the climax of the story, but there's so much more to it that it like doesn't even ruin it. But yeah, she has a baby in the Walmart, and it's just such a good book. It's so comforting, and I've like reread it. So I don't know. I think that I liked what Hayden said about escapism, because I guess that would have even been like a more honest question. Like, what are you doing for escapism? What can I do? Like, tell me. But yeah, I think that like media is like a huge form of escapism. It's the best form of escapism.
I think that the different ways that you interact with media can be different forms of escapism. My friends, when we were all teenagers, we would role play. So we would take on, this character's problems and really think through how they're going to solve them and make new scenarios where they have new problems and then work how through to solve those problems, which is, that's kind of all story writing is here's a problem, how do we fix it? That's about it. But that's kind of a more direct form of escapism, escaping into someone who isn't yourself. I feel like cosplay is another form of that because it's derived from costume and play, and the play part is kind of escaping into these characters. You can kind of not be yourself for a little while, and I wonder if other cosplayers, because I used to cosplay back in the day, are kind of feeling sad that that's a mode of escapism that they came to use to cope that they can't use right now. You can cosplay on media, you can cosplay on TikTok, but there are no conventions right now. So those places and times where we used to meet up and kind of use that form of escapism aren't happening. But I feel like in what way do you interact with media that allows you to experience escapism is an even more direct question.
Yeah, exactly. I guess
pandemic.
It definitely is. I would love to see, I think for any cosplayers out there listening that are like, oh, there's nowhere for me to go and do cosplay, please just come walk around the library. It would just make my day.
That would be so cool.
Really. It would make my whole day.
Don't bring 50 of you, but one at a time.
Yeah.
Come walk through the library. That would be so cool. I would love to see it.
Yeah, you can even talk to us in character and stuff. We'll play along. It'd be great.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We totally will.
I am so tired if let me think of a character I would interact with. Oh, literally anybody from any modern show or book or thing that I have read. If they came in, I would just be like, oh, hey, Spider-Man, how's it going?
Literally.
Did you have fun swinging on the buildings today? Please interact with me in character so that I don't have to think about the fact that everything is really happening.
Yeah.
It's I wish Spider-Man was real, and for a moment I could pretend that he is.
Exactly. I would love that.
And I think part of it, for me, I don't really so much. I write a lot of stories. When I was younger, I did role-playing, RPing online, and stuff like that. I don't really do so much nowadays, but like you said, it is sort of all story writing really boils down to is we have a problem, how do we solve it, and then solving it causes more problems, and we have to solve those and ad infinitum, all that. But it's kind of nice, there's still problems, but at least the problems that this fictional character faces are so outlandish and strange compared to mine. I have to worry about real world stuff, the deadly virus. And Mr. I can't even think of a fake person name. Mr. Jack Frost, I guess. Not Jack, I don't know why I picked him. Anyway, he has to deal with the moon
snow is melting,
sparkling. I don't know. He has to deal with crazy stuff that's not real.
Jack Frost. Okay, I was thinking, what kind of problems did Jack Frost face? Well, no snow. That would be a problem.
No snow. It's never gonna snow again. Well, I guess global warming is a real problem, but you know what I mean. The problems that he has to face are so outlandish and weird, and you can think of really crazy solutions for them. So it's it feels it's still a problem, and these characters are still going through a struggle or a trial or whatever, but it's on it's so removed from reality that it kind of lets you play in the space without having to actually deal with the repercussions, the real world struggle and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I definitely want to just believe for 30 minutes that my husband and I have been watching Hey Arnold. And I love that show, and we have the box set and whatever, but I want to believe that the only problem in the world is that Helga Pataki has a crush on Arnold and that he can't know about it. That's what I want to believe. I don't want to think about all this other stuff. I just want to be oh no, Helga's secret might get exposed. Oh no.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a good feeling to just believe that.
Yeah, to just get sucked in and kind of be like you said, it's just the world can be simple for just a moment. The world can be simple, and I don't have to deal with everything else in the world and everything else in my life. It's
yeah, absolutely.
20 minutes. The biggest problem in the world is that Arnold might figure out about Helga's crush. Like,
Yeah.
that's all I have to worry about for 20 minutes. Like,
And also, like, I think that a part of that is like these problems that we're seeing and these like what's the word I'm looking for? These conflicts that we're seeing like in media. They're so like what's the word? They're like figure outable. You can overcome them. And the problems that we're dealing with right now with the pandemic is like we're not really able to do a lot. You know what I mean? It's like it seems very insurmountable.
It's like it's hard because like in fiction there's catharsis and there's, you know, narrative like flow and there's like, you know, stuff like that. But then like in the real world sometimes something will happen and you just never get closure, or like it doesn't end the way it should have ended. Like, you know, like I find myself thinking like if this was a book this would have happened, or if this was a movie this would have happened, but like it's not.
Oh my gosh.
You know?
Am I the only one who thinks that like if Miss Frizzle was real that everything would be okay?
Yeah, she could just fix it. Her and her school bus.
Yes, they would have figured this out a long time ago.
Have a name?
It's just the Magic School Bus.
The Magic School Bus.
Unless you consider like the honk honk noise its name.
It's like a Pokemon. It just says its name.
Yeah, you don't really. We don't know.
It's speaking bus. We can't understand it.
We don't know his or her name or their name. We don't know
their name. Yeah.
Would y'all say that the pandemic kind of has added extra responsibility onto everyone's shoulders that they weren't prepared for?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because I mean, I think now when I go out about, am I covering my face? Am I not touching things? Am I putting someone else at risk by going into the Walmart? You know, I imagine that for our listeners of all ages, there's more responsibility on your shoulders right now than you're used to, and that's a cause of, you know, it's a cause of anxiety and things. So no wonder we're turning to escapism, and we're turning to music, and we're turning to whatever else. That's part of what makes the pandemic difficult, is that added responsibility. And I think that's why it's nice to find comfort in simple media, because that responsibility goes away. Now all we're thinking about is, you know, can this character gather all 3 journals? That's all. That's it. Like,
it's like not
small goals.
Yeah, and but at the same time, I do think escapism can be an unhealthy coping mechanism if given too much precedent, you know, in your mind. It's nice to take a break from the world and let yourself, you know, believe that. Yeah, it's simple. You know, for 20 minutes, the world can be this simple. Maybe for a whole day, you can spend a whole day doing, you know, whatever. Every day you can do it, but like, it's still important to ground yourself in like reality and kind of not let that like, as much as the world is weird right now, you still don't want your life to kind of like pass you by in that way, you know. So it's hard, especially now.
I agree with that.
It's really hard trying to find a good balance, a healthy balance between a normal amount of escapism to cope with, you know, everything that's going on in the world right now, versus an unhealthy amount where, you know, you're not. Because I know when I was a teenager, that was a big problem that I had. I'd shut myself up in my room and do nothing but play video games for like a week and not talk to anybody and not see anybody and not, you know. And of course now, considering the quarantine and the pandemic, it's really easy to shut yourself up in your room and not talk to anybody or see anybody. But it's really important to, you know, as much as we are talking about escapism and how it helps us cope, like it's important to, now more than ever, I think, reaffirm those bonds you have with people that you know and kind of stay grounded. Find ways to stay grounded.
Well, there's lots of, I think like it'd be cool. I mean, let's think about like some healthy escapism examples. Like you can do and experience escapism by just like taking a walk at a park where it's safe. Let me just preface this with somewhere safe, but like you can go and visit like some outside location that you've never been to before. You can like participate in some kind of online group discussion. Like there's tons of Facebook groups out there. Like I just got added to a librarian like Facebook group today. And that could be like a form of like escapism, or getting involved in like a D&D group or something like that, that like still gives you that like communication and gives you something to do and is building like your intrapersonal skills and stuff, but it's still a form of escapism.
Yeah, like allowing you to kind of step out of your everyday problems, but not like encouraging you to become disconnected from other people.
Right.
Because that disconnect, I've experienced that, and what you wind up doing is you wind up coping with the initial thing that you were going to cope with using the escapism, but when the escapism goes too far, now you have to cope with the repercussions of that.
Right.
So it just adds more onto your plate, when really what you're trying to do is kind of healthily give yourself this escape without, taking it too far. But when I was a teenager, I definitely had times where, like you were saying, I hadn't talked to anybody in forever. I was just playing a video game or reading a particular series or getting really, really, really into something. And then I would have to cope with, the consequences of that. And they can be just as difficult as sometimes whatever you were originally coping with. So I think keeping it healthy is really important. And if you can keep it, I don't want to say social because that's a scary word right now, but if you can keep it interactive, that's a fantastic way to keep yourself grounded a little bit and make sure that you're doing it in a healthy way.
Yeah, I think a big important part of it is just knowing yourself and knowing your habits. Because it's like, I know myself and I know my habits, and I know that like if I don't check myself, I will just like isolate and then like sit and, because like I'm kind of introverted and I'm kind of a loner, and I'm content to just like be in my own space and all that, but emotionally that's not good for me, and like long term that's not healthy for me, and like if I continue to do that, I know that I'll like get really depressed. So it's like I can recognize the signs, and I think this is just something that comes with like as you get older and as you kind of learn yourself more. Like I can recognize like, oh, I'm starting to like act in this way, that's like I'm starting to detach from people, or I'm starting to like exhibit these behaviors that I know are like not good. So like I need to make an effort to like pull myself back from that. So it's like, yeah, I've been like sitting in my room playing Destiny for like 2 days straight. So I need to get up and go talk to someone on the phone, like call one of my friends and like figure out something safe and healthy that we can do, and like reach out to people and, not just sit there in my own business and shut everyone else out. Like that's a problem that I faced a lot with this going too far.
Realize how like through the pandemic we've learned humans are social creatures, and having to distance like we have has really caused a lot of like mental strain for a lot of people, because it's not natural the way that we're having to do it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm just to build off what Natasha said, like I also do that. I think everyone like is capable of doing that, of being like stressed, especially in times of like high stress, where it's comforting to just kind of like retreat into your safe space, and like having a safe space in a place where you're like super comfortable, playing a game that makes you really comfortable or watching a show that makes you really comfortable is so important. But like it's also important to like share, like how Natasha just like said, like I know myself, and I know times when I'm getting like really isolated, or I'm letting that like stress or anxiety like kind of get to be too much. But and knowing herself, like she's able to say like, hey, this is getting too much, I need to reach out to like my friend, I need to reach out to a family member, or I need to like do something, take a walk in nature, do something that's gonna like get me out of this. Like that's so awesome. And that's the time when you want to like have a podcast with your friends, like do something just to like pull yourself out of it a little bit. And you'd be really surprised like how, for me, I know like I'm always really surprised how like cooking a good meal will like pull me out of a situation like that. So I just think that's really cool. Like I really related to that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and also another thing that, is really surprising to me is how many other people feel that way too.
Yeah.
Like you always think, or at least I always find myself thinking like I'm the only one who like feels this way, or like, I get all like in my head or whatever. And then like you reach out and you talk like, hey, I've been really feeling like lonely, or I've been really feeling stressed, or I've been feeling like the only time I'm happy is when I play a game, or, something like that. And I think that's a really easy way to like kind of fall into thinking, especially when you're in a really crazy situation like the whole world right now in 2020. So, and I think when you reach out and talk to someone about that, like it's always surprising how many other people are like, yeah, I sorry, the car went by outside.
Yeah, it was like so crazy.
How many other people feel like that too, and like are also kind of experiencing that burnout or that stress or that, whatever. And
yeah, this far into it, if you're not feeling burnout, I want to know what it is that you're doing, because all three of us, I think,
whatever
could
it is,
definitely
I want
say. Yeah, like for our listeners, I feel like if you are sitting there thinking like, well, I don't really think that very many people around me feel this way, and I still feel really isolated, and I still feel really like I don't have a way to like deal with stuff. Like maybe you're feeling like you don't have like an escape. Like, please know that like there are 3 librarians sitting in the library right now in separate rooms that all feel exactly the same way. So you're definitely not on your own. So I want to give like some recommendations of like what I've been doing. So I think it'd be cool if we all went around and like said 3 things like as suggestions for if we do have listeners that are like looking for something to do, kind of like I was. We've kind of already done this, but we can just like re-go over it. So my 3 suggestions are to read the book Where the Heart Is, because it's by Billy Letts. It's a really good one. It's like just really, really nice, and I really like it. If you hate it, sorry, but I really like it. I would definitely say like we have teens, it's teen people, so I'm trying to think if the X-Files is like appropriate for teens. I'm pretty sure it is. Ask your parents.
I think it's appropriate.
I think it is. Watch the X-Files.
I can't think of anything in it that's
yeah, like I really can't either. I'm not going to suggest Twin Peaks to you, teens, because it's not totally appropriate. Please ask if you're going to watch it. Please ask your parents and like watch with caution, but definitely would suggest X-Files. And my third thing would be to go outside. Don't go around crowds. I would never suggest that you go around crowds or you go to like populated areas or, whatever, but like go take a walk outside. Like you'd be really amazed how much better you'll feel just like getting out of your room. Just get out of there. Don't take your phone. Like take your phone, but don't be on it. Just be outside. Those are my recommendations.
I think my recommendations, nobody's gonna like this one, but keep a schedule. Like wake up at a certain time in the morning and go to sleep at a certain time at night. That's honestly been one of the best things I could have done to like keep myself sane. There was a long period of time where the library was closed and we were working from home, and some of us weren't working at all, and that was a really hard time, at first for me, not having any sort of regulation in my schedule and all that. I was surprised how much better I felt when I started waking up in the morning and going to sleep at night, even if I didn't have work the next day or school the next day. For some of our listeners, just make it a schedule and sticking to it. Something as easy as be in bed before midnight, be up before noon.
That's easy. You can do that.
But just something simple like that. Another recommendation: do something creative. Be it I really like to draw. I've been doing a lot of drawing over the course of this pandemic. I've had a lot more time to do it. A big part of why I kind of didn't have as much time in the past is because I had things to do that are all now closed or reduced in such a way that, I don't do them. But drawing or writing or making music or, I don't know, just any kind of creative pursuit, I feel like that is a really good way to focus your energy, and it's, you can be part of your escapism, but it's also constructive, and you get to have a finished product to look at the end and feel accomplished about. Last but not least, I'd say just get back into that thing that you liked when you were younger that you're embarrassed about now, but
Yes.
I've been listening to My Chemical Romance and Fall Out Boy, and
my gosh.
Watching all the shows I watched when I was a teenager, and just I'm it made me happy then, and it makes me happy now. There's no sense in being embarrassed about it. So just kind of getting rid of those conceptions. Those are my 3 things that I've done to help me stay stable and sane over the past several months.
10 years.
I don't know if I could say I am stable or sane, but I'm close enough that I'm here. So I would say listen to music, find new kinds of music you've never heard before. Spotify has good stuff for that. They've got the shuffle function. You can shuffle a playlist, ask your friends for their playlists, see what they're listening to. Music can really help, ease the pain here a lot. I would also say engage in mystery type media. I've been doing this a lot. Right when the pandemic started, I got really into Gravity Falls. And I think that there is something about the resolution at the end that is something we're not getting through this pandemic. That's the main thing I think that's really, it's dragging on, and it never feels like there's any resolution. So if you like mystery type content, you're going to get that resolution at the end. And it's going to make your brain go, ooh, happy chemicals. And then it can help a little bit. And also, I think getting up and moving around is really important. There were days in the beginning of the pandemic when some of us, were working from home and being at home all day that I would realize I hadn't moved from my chair in like 6 hours. Don't do that. Don't be me. Get up, walk around, take a walk, do a couple of push-ups if you can. If you can't, that's cool too. There's some really cool at-home workouts you can do with cans of like things or bags of sand or books or just objects that have a little bit of weight to them at all. You'll feel better for it. It'll sound awful. I hate working out. It's like the worst thing. I think about working out and I think I don't want to do that. Moving is awful. And then once I'm done, I'm like, yeah! And like you feel a lot better.
That's kind of the same.
Those are my 3 recommendations.
As going to sleep and waking up on time. Like, you don't want to do it. You're like, no, I don't want to go to bed. Or like, oh God, I don't want to wake up in the morning or like whatever. But like once your like body gets used to it, it's like, actually, it's really nice being up in the morning. Like, it's really nice like sleeping through the night, like you kind of realize like this is actually good. Like, there's a reason people always recommend this when I tell them I'm having like, I'm like, I have depression, and they're like, did you try yoga? And I'm like, no. But then like I try yoga and I'm like, wait a second,
this is nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe those people are onto something. Like,
Definitely. I definitely 100% agree with the going to sleep on time and the waking up on time. A schedule for me especially, and like some people aren't like this, but I definitely need a schedule and I need routine, and so much anxiety. There's so much unknown right now that if you can like make your little world more known and more like, expected and predictable, then that's going to ease some of that anxiety.
I agree.
And if you guys try any of the recommendations we're giving you, absolutely feel free to come back and comment and be like, Hayden, that didn't work. And I'll be like, okay, I'm sorry. But come talk to us about it. Leave a comment on our content if you want. I mean, if you're being safe and you're wearing your mask, come into the library and say, hey, I heard your podcast. We would love to hear from you guys. It would be awesome.
Absolutely. And also check out our YouTube channel. It's Cal's Teens, CALS Teens on YouTube, and watch some of our content. We're pretty funny. I know you wouldn't know it based on, being librarians, but we're actually very hilarious.
You wouldn't know it listening to the podcast, but we are pretty funny.
We're very, very funny. But yeah, definitely check that out. Subscribe and like. And I'm doing a peace sign by my eye. You can't see it.
Like and subscribe, tap the bell.
And thank you guys for listening, especially if you've been with us through the beginning of the podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you.
And we will be back really soon to talk to you guys again.
See ya.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.